All right. So now we're going to the obscure one you mentioned earlier, In Sound Tour Support number 12, which sounds like about the most fake thing in the world.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
And the song on that we're talking about is Joy in Forgetting, Joy in Acceptance.
There's a cat in the window of the house of my lover. Well, she sleeps there alone now, or perhaps with another. Oh, I try not to think about that. I try not to think at all. I get cocaine from my girl I met, and my brother buys me alcohol, and I stay up all night walking through these houses I have grown to hate. And my parents ask if I'm alright. I say I've just been staying up too late. I need to sleep.
He really was at that point where he was going to end himself. And I know that he talks about that a lot with other songs, but I think here he sonically grasps that despair, the ugliness of it. And then when it drifts into the prettier side, the piano ballad, and him telling his mother how he feels and how he wants to end himself. And I know a lot of people like accuse Connor of like putting it on with the emotional singing. I would dare anyone to tell me that he doesn't sound authentic on that song. His voice is quavering to the point of it sounds like he really is crying. To me, I listen to a lot of bands that write a lot to speak to this thing. Going from rock bottom, trying to find some light and growing out of it. And I love those bands for it. The Pumpkins are one for me. But here, I don't know if I've ever heard a song that perfectly captures that rock bottom. And the fact that someone who has lived on wrote that song and put it out there makes it even that more powerful, because he's showing folks that you can get past it. So like, you know, I'm this, I don't know how deep you want me to get with like my personal side about this, but suicide is something that's haunted my family my whole life. I've had four suicides in my personal family. Going back to when I was 5 to, you know, years apart, but, you know, about 4 years ago, I had the latest one. And so it's something that's always been there in my life. And any band that talks about that thing, I've always been drawn to. And I love that Connor, I don't know of any other song that captures what that could feel like in that final day better than this song. And the fact that Connor is still here today makes it that's so amazing.
You can experience expression of that type of dire moment without the personal experience you have, or the Elliott Smith of it all type.
Exactly.
Type thing,
or listening to Joy Division, the last song that Ian wrote. I mean, those are great, powerful songs, but it's not powerful in this way because you are connecting with them at that bottom level, but you are listening to an artist who got past it. So it becomes that much more powerful to me.
Something you talk about the lines about his mom. There's a recurring thing, and everything from the way he writes about sadness and aspiring toward joy and disappointment and everything. And you hear about you hear mention of his family, or this almost apologetic or references to his brothers and his mom and his dad that are kind of really affecting. Really feels authentically confessional. Like, I don't feel it's not good how I feel right now, and I am sorry I'm feeling that way because of how that then makes you feel.
You say there are spaces open and wide. Believe me, there's days longer than nights, and you will be happy the minute you try, but you don't try. No, you don't try. And you speak of a fever that burns you inside, as you explain to your mother how you wanted to die. So she kisses your fingers, says, my darling, but why? When there's so much more, when there's so much more. Do you know there are spaces open and wide? Oh, believe me, there's days longer than nights, and you will be happy if only you try. Oh, won't you try? Oh, won't you try?
And even his most recent album, Down in the Weeds, he mixes in a lot of sound clips of him having a conversation. That's his mom he's talking to sometimes. They're on mushrooms, according to Connor, having a weird conversation. But it's clear that they're a big part of his life. And I connect with that because despite all the darkness in my life and all of the hard times I expressed, my mom provided such a light of hope in my life. And it was a spark that allowed me to lift other friends who were dealing with darker problems out of darkness. So I connect that.
I appreciate you sharing this song and that the kind of storylines out of the tours that are happening now a few weeks ago and stuff like that. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to like interpret or assume anything because it's like immediately these shows are going great again. But I know that as a person making this podcast, I had my brief moment of like, is this feels like a thing I want to be sensitive to, you know?
I think it's fair to say this. I mean, look at the album. Forget about the tour for a second. Just look at the album that Brenda's just put out. Connor's talking about death in so often and sincerely. It connects very deeply to this period of his life. Half of the songs on Down the Weeds, he's talking about his own death. Things got really bad for him in the last couple of years. And I know you want to be sensitive to it because it's happening currently. Yeah. But you have, when you get to that album, I hope you do point that out just a little bit.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So much of this is dealing with mortality, and he hasn't gotten that space for many years, and it connects to this era.
The songs and the music and everything like that, I intend to go all the way on that. Just in I don't want to like interpret news stories and stuff like that. That's all
I hear you.
You know?
I hear you.